Good afternoon, St. Francis, and good afternoon, people of God. It is Wednesday, November the 24th, 2021, Wednesday of the 34th and last week of our year, of our liturgical year. But also today we celebrate the memorial of St. Andrew Dong Lac and companions, the martyrs of Vietnam. Andrew and his companions were martyred about the early 1800s under the Emperor Mang, I believe his name was. He was a highly orthodox, Confucian Orthodox emperor who had distaste for anything that was Christian because it was considered Western, and thereby violating the culture of the people of Vietnam. And so he sought to get rid of it, to eradicate it from Vietnam. And Andrew, who was a priest, and his companions were victims of that persecution. The martyrs, the companion martyrs, were mainly lay people. So Andrew was kind of one of the few priests who were there, but many more lay people were martyred from Vietnam. So we remember today the people of Vietnam, the church in Vietnam, as well as the continued spread of the gospel there. It is 1 month until Christmas Eve, so it's important to remember that on this day, 1 month until Christmas Eve, day before Thanksgiving here in the United States. I am coming to you from undisclosed location. I'm on location again, beginning Thanksgiving holidays. It was supposed to be colder than I thought, but it's not so bad. It's supposed to get colder later on, so where I am up north. So hopefully you and your preparations for Thanksgiving are coming along well. As we move towards, again, the conclusion of our liturgical year and the horizon of Advent lying before us, we hear continuing again from the book of Daniel. And in the book of Daniel, again, King Nebuchadnezzar's banquet is described and what happens at the banquet. Because during the banquet that he's having for many famous people throughout all of Babylonia, a mysterious hand with a wrist appears and begins to write on one of the walls of the banquet hall. And he calls in Daniel, again, who is known for interpreting dreams and interpreting things, and asks what the writing on the wall means, again, where we get the expression writing on the wall. It's 3 words, Menes, Tekel, and Pera. They don't really have really good Hebrew connections. They're not necessarily Hebrew words. Many scripture scholars will say, many Jewish people will say they're not Hebrew words, but what they turn out to mean basically is that Nebuchadnezzar's fame is going to be fleeting, and that his kingdom will end and will be divided among other peoples. Again, another sign that as much as we might hold on to greatness, in our own time and place, it is always passing, and the only thing that remains is the greatness of God. So the idea of making sure that our affairs are always put in order, or our affairs are ordered to the best practices, or the best places, or the best things, is what is important, not only for believers in this world, but for all people. And so again, the great value and meaning of this episode in the book of Daniel, in the life of King Nebuchadnezzar, and what he comes to understand. We'll see that it doesn't always end up well again for Daniel, that he's able to do these kinds of things when he says to Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar's advisors are not happy having Daniel around, because Daniel sort of brings the truth to fleeting fame and fleeting power and fleeting authority, and fleeting control within this world. Again, Luke's gospel, again a mirror of this, in which Jesus basically warns his followers that, again, they're not going to be liked, they're not going to be cared for, people are not going to be happy with what they represent and who they represent, Christ. And so many of them, again, many of us will suffer all kinds of persecutions and all kinds of opposition and all kinds of people who will say and do things against us. And again, we will be called, to give reason for our hope. Again, the first letter of Peter gives that great advice to believers, to always be ready to give an answer for the reason for the hope that you possess, because that is what makes us different as believers in the world, is the fact that we hope in a way the world can never hope to hope in. And because of that, we look at the world and receive what the world gives us in a very different way than others who refuse to believe or who feel as though they can't believe. That kind of witness of knowing what to say and how to give defense for our faith and what it means for us to be believers in this world will not come from us, but will come from God's Spirit that dwells within us. To be attentive always of that whenever we speak about faith, whenever we speak about the power of faith, it is not the source of it does not find its source in our own agendas or our own grandstanding or our own puffing ourselves up over others, but its source always has to come from God. And if it doesn't, then it only comes from us. And that sometimes can twist the meaning of the gospel, the meaning of faith, the meaning of the power of God in our lives. Making sure always, as we move to the conclusion of this liturgical year, that we speak only from what God prompts us to speak and from what God's Spirit calls us to speak is an important message, is an important reality and truth that all of us as believers need to attend to and need to embrace in our own lives. And may the Lord continue to give you his peace.